This is RPMMORadio,
Do it live! I'll write it and we'll do it live!
a podcast all about roleplaying and MMORPGs.
I like what you got. Good job.
With your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, Sid, Jazz, Sibh'Bae, and Kitchless.
Everybody off. We need to go on a quick adventure.
Greetings and welcome. This is RPMMORadio, episode 27, Disabled Gamers Got Game. I, of course, am one of your hosts, Ashen Phoenix, and of course we have the crew with me, Jazz, Kitchless, Sib, and Sibh'Bae, and we have a special guest who I will introduce after all the boring stuff that we have to get through every single show. How's everybody doing tonight?
Pretty good. Good here.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. And we're all here, full crew this episode, which is awesome. Somebody didn't have to worry about paychecks or something. I don't know how that works out every time.
Who would that be?
I don't know. That no good Jazz, that's who. But I have a feeling of chance of being here or work. I'm pretty sure I know where I would rather be. Definitely work. Definitely work.
Indeed,
yeah, definitely
sir.
work. Everybody
Yes,
work.
same.
We're all good on
I love
work.
standing around.
All right.
Mm-mm.
No? Oh, well, there's always one. You're the 1 out of 5 of the dentists that nobody understands. So, yeah. So, I want to thank everybody for coming. We do have an awesome show coming forward today. But before we get into that, I want to thank all our generous Patreon donors. Gangsy Girl, who, while we mentioned her last show, technically this would be the first time. That guy, Laza, and all the other smart, intelligent, and what I can only assume are beautiful people that have become Patreons to our show. We appreciate everybody, and it will go a long way to helping make it less horrible. I mean, not by much. I mean, there's only so much we can do with the talent we have. I'm looking at the host, the main one that's always talking.
Can't do anything with him. He's got all the setup at his computer. So
That's
we're just
right.
stuck with him. I'm sorry. I am so sorry.
There's nothing we can do. They don't make muzzles his size.
No.
That's right.
I actually
one is
chewed
definitely
through the
proud.
last one.
Of our mercenary crew. including our
Completely unrelated to the show, I got one of those red ball gags like the end of that thing. Chewed right through it like I was a fucking German Shepherd. Just right through it.
Mhm.
And all I was doing was talking. I wasn't even trying. Just took half
I was
an
going
hour.
to say, Sib, do you have something you want to tell us about your
Yeah.
trip?
Like, it's like 50 shades.
There
50 Shades of Gamer.
Yeah.
you go.
That's the ERP one.
I put on my robe and wizard hat. Oh, that'll be a good episode. That's what we have to call that, 50 Shades of Gamer, when we go into ERP.
Yes,
There we go.
yes.
We got the title.
boy.
Look at
Good
that. The
title.
creative process
Do we get to
live on
talk
air.
sexy?
Oh my. So, if you're watching us live, you can always do that every Saturday, 7 Central Time, twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. If you're not, iTunes, or what's that called? Apple Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean. You can always, see us at www.rpmmmoradio.com. It's got all the information on all of us, except for our 2 new hosts, because they still haven't gotten me their small little paragraphs, and now I'm on air shaming them.
Oh,
There.
Shame.
I knew I was forgetting
Shame.
something.
Forgetting
Shame.
something.
It's been a busy week, man.
No, it's always been a busy week. Shh. You're
Because it
just
always works.
yeah, right. It's always a busy week of doing
Shame.
Sneaking
nothing.
blurb.
Shame.
Slave driver.
Love being shamed.
That's
We need a bell that when you
I
do
know.
that,
That's
you
what I was
need a
thinking. I need a bell.
ding ding. Shame.
Shame.
Just gonna watch Cersei Lannister walk through the city naked. Mm-hmm.
What the hell is that?
Game of
Game of Thrones
Thrones.
reference.
I'm not
Oh,
ashamed to be a Game of Thrones fan.
Good old Game of Trolls.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Hey, everyone, how did you like that that last book? It's finally. Oh wait, no, it's never coming out. You're never gonna know how it ends. You're gonna know how the
that
show
sucks.
ends before you know how the books end. Pathetic. Get back to writing, you old fart. Anyway, let's see here. So we're gonna kind of just so that we can get to our main guy here, who will be the Smiling Sorcerer, also known as the Smiling Sorcerer. I actually never got his real name because I didn't think to ask for it, and probably it's not that important unless you're wanting to steal his identity. So, before we get into that, we'll just go ahead and do the quick word from our sponsor. Everybody good with that? Just getting it out of the way so we could not have to interrupt everything. All right. Well, we have a special message today, actually, from, for legal reasons, I don't think that he's using his full name, but he is known as Jay Thompson. So I think we can just turn it over to him and see what he has. Hi. You might remember me as disgraced and disbarred for repetitive, frivolous, insulting to the integrity of the court, former lawyer Jay Thompson. I fought against violence in video games to the result of absolute zip, zero, nada, nothing whatsoever did I actually contribute to the conversation. I couldn't have been less effective, in fact, if I was a pair of spandex underwear on Rosie O'Donnell after Thanksgiving. But now, I am vindicated. The ruling of the World Health Organization classifying gaming as a disorder, finally, I am back, baby. With this classification in tow, my new law degree from Honduras Online Degrees and Hours, I'm going to make my life's work to have all gamers committed, given the help of the WHO, clearly things they need. Now, they didn't clarify on how to cure gaming addiction and gaming disorder, so I have some thoughts, and here they are. Electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, bamboo shoots under the fingernails, that scene from Clockwork Orange where you hold the guy's eyes open and make him watch violent stuff till he learns the errors of his violent ways. Just to name a few that I've come up with. So remember, I, Jay Thompson, am here to help you get over your gaming disorder and completely ignore things like facts, benefits, the fact that no one likes me, and that I'm alone, so very, very alone. Yeah. I actually talked to that guy once, do you know that? Called in a radio show. He is as fucking stupid as you actually think he is.
I imagine so.
Yeah, he is a complete douchebag.
It's like curb stomp material, bro.
Yeah. Oh, it was on, was it? I think Grand Theft Auto 3 when that came out. It was that far back. And he was on a local radio show, and he's just as dumb as you think he is. The stuff that he just completely ignores. I told him, it's like, it's not any different than when you were playing cowboys and Indians and, shooting each other as a kid. He's like, well, the difference is it's realistic. I'm like, yeah, playing with your buddy in the backyard and little kids' imaginations isn't exactly the same thing. Well, you don't die in real life. Well, you don't die in a video game. Such an idiot. So,
anything and everything to make your life miserable, because they are themselves miserable. They want to spread it, and that's kind of the formula.
Yeah. It was nice hearing that he got disbarred because he would do crazy ass things and file frivolous lawsuits, and actually tried to sue the Bar Association of Florida. How'd that work out for you, Jay? Too well. All right. So with that out of the way, we're gonna go ahead and skip over what we've been doing on RP, because honestly, this is way more interesting. So without further ado, the Smiling Sorcerer, who we'll get to know a little bit. He's here somewhere. He's muted. He's muted. There he is. How's it going?
Hello, everyone. It's going quite well. How are you?
Doing well.
Excellent. Excellent.
We want to get to know you a little bit. Let everybody understand that you actually are a disabled gamer, as in somebody who has a disability and you game. It's not like you weren't born this way. You chose this lifestyle. Except for the disabled part.
No,
so, what's your disability? What is it that you got?
My disability is of pain, sadness, sorrow, and of course, love.
But every other gamer in existence, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. You sound like a role player.
One of us.
That's pretty much all there's wrong. So what's wrong with you is that you role play, and I personally think we need to start a foundation for you.
I would totally be on board with that. Totally.
Right?
No, in all seriousness, my disability is cerebral palsy. It primarily affects the use of certain. Apparently, my speech impediment.
Because sudden speech impediments. That's a new symptom.
No, but like your certain limbs, like hands, feet, legs, stuff like that. It affects everybody differently. In my case, it affects my left arm and the way that I walk. I like to refer to myself as a cute little waddling penguin with a dashing beard and good looks. However, not everybody agrees. So, it's to...
I just saw you as one of those Star Wars penguin deals, the top hat and a little monocle.
Yeah. You mean you don't have a beard? Is that what they're disagreeing with?
No,
I mean, mine grows in a little splotchy too,
cute,
but still, I mean, if I want a beard, I don't beard shame him. Don't beard shame the man. Good grief.
I know. Right?
He's got enough going on in his life. You don't have to beard shame him too.
Beard shame.
Not to brag, but the beard is kind of epic. I mean, it's quite thick. It's quite distinguished.
The full-on lumberjack thing going on.
Totally, except I'm not out in the woods trying to murder a little girl in a red hood.
Right. Well, and the climbing trees things is a little different.
But do you have the flannel?
I do. I do have
fantastic.
Do you also work all night and sleep all night and work all day? And do you like to press pretty flowers?
Flowers, no, but the other part, yes.
Okay. Do you like
In
to
lieu
wear
of
dresses
flowers,
and
that's
prance
candy.
around in bars?
Do you use lotion?
Do you use lotion?
Does it put lotion
put it
on the skin?
Yeah, bro.
Right. Yeah, bro.
Get out of my head, man. I love it.
I know, right? No.
Okay, well, that's good. That's an old, I'm thinking I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay just went right over some people's head.
Nah, that's cool.
Money
But
point, though.
actually,
Come on.
going back to how you said I didn't give you my real name. It's kind of funny because my actual name is one of the most common names in probably history.
John Smith.
Close. It's the second most common last name in the world.
Muhammad?
Well, okay.
Jones.
I should say
Smith.
I should have specified. All right. It's Johnson.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that is pretty common. Wow, you
Yes.
are vanilla as hell.
I am vanilla as hell, and I started my MMO career in vanilla. So,
Wow.
mic drop. Boom. There you go. Yes. First name is Andrew, by the way.
Andrew,
So-
that's right. Actually, I think you did tell me that, but I'll be honest, I'm terrible with names. Yeah.
Well, I'm terrible with names either, because by the end of the night, all of you are getting nicknames, and you probably aren't going to all like them. But you know what? Tough cookies.
Oh, joy.
Hey, man. I embrace all my nicknames. My nickname turned into my most common username.
Nice.
Yeah, it's true. About how it goes.
I picked mine.
Narcissist.
All right. So, cerebral
you said it,
palsy,
bro.
and not to be confused with some of the other things that I know we had talked earlier. You kind of, people get that confused with like other disabilities where, it affects the nervous system or the musculature like MS and things like that. And that's not
Yes.
how that works.
No. I mean, I don't claim to be an expert, but
On this show you are.
well, I mean, in terms of other disabilities, but
Right.
from what I can understand, muscular dystrophy worsens over time. And if there are any other disabled people listening, I do apologize. I mean no offense. It's just that's just my knowledge. If I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comment section.
Mm-hmm.
With cerebral palsy, it's kind of parallel. It just kind of stays at where you were affected from birth or however you...
because it's
contract.
something you're typically born with, cerebral palsy.
That is correct. Yes.
I know I read up on it a little bit. I researched for this that it can happen with certain
Good for you.
traumatic
Yep.
things. I'm assuming like head injuries and things like that probably
Yes.
would
That actually
could also
is...
cause it. But it's not like what Michael J. Fox has, where it just gets, or Muhammad Ali, things, those types of things. It just continues on and gets worse and worse.
Parkinson's.
as treatments get better and better, obviously they can prolong the life and all that stuff for those ones.
Right.
But for what you have, it's you've got typically a normal life expectancy, unless there's something I guess else that might happen. I guess if I remember right.
If I didn't have a normal life expectancy, I wouldn't even want to know about it.
Right.
It's like one of those things like, you're only going to live till 50. Well, what?
In that case, I would enjoy what you got left till next Tuesday, because somebody called and just enjoy it.
The Reaper called. He wants your soul back.
I was playing Sims 4, and he apparently just shows up randomly.
Wow.
Actually, I wasn't, but it's funny. So, okay. And is there anything else you want to get out there about that before we move on to other stuff?
As far as definition goes, that's pretty much it.
Okay. Yeah. And you are also missing a hand.
Actually, I have the hand.
Vader.
I just can't use it.
Oh, okay. So it's not missing. It's just basically not there.
Not usable. Right. It's sleeping right now. It's in sleep.
It's in sleep mode.
It's in sleep mode.
So it does what my computer does just randomly early on in your life. It's like, we have an update,
and
it just continually got stuck.
It only wakes up to flip people off. I swear to God.
That's right. So so that's the hand that you're telling me.
That seems like
randomly,
the most probable use.
That's the finger of justice that I had named for you.
You must have loaded Windows Vista on it, bro, and it's like internally stuck.
Yep.
Yeah.
It'll just be sitting by itself, and all of a sudden it'll start to twitch, and no pun intended, because we're on Twitch right now.
Right.
It'll just kind of slowly creep out, and then passerbys will be like, "Excuse me," and I'm like, "What?
I can't control it.
Be angry at him, not me.
I'm not with him.
I should get a T-shirt that says, "I'm not with my left hand."
Yeah. We had a fight. It was messy. We don't talk to each other anymore. So basically, and you are a role player. You play ESO.
Yes.
And honestly, having talked to you over Discord, both in voice and in text, I have two hands that are fully functional. Still a better typer than me. So
well, I appreciate that.
Good for you. You're so good at that. And I know how much
It's
you
not
love it when
hard
people
though,
talk
Ashen.
down
You
to
just
you.
suck typing.
What?
Nothing.
What? I think she's trying to say you don't know how to spell for crap.
Oh yeah, it has nothing.
Well,
to do with I can type quickly, and it
we
shows.
We can affect others with the typo e's, and it often happens to Miss Chazzy over there as well.
Oh yes, it does. I'm horrible.
Great
at
profanities and fanfare.
Yeah, and also the mistells, which she is world
Oh,
famous
y'all
for.
can be quiet. Be quiet.
She is legendary on mistells.
We're legendary on mistells, especially
There was
early
a
on in
ranking
her
system.
gaming
You remember,
career.
Ashen?
You want to keep poking at me, Jazz? Huh? You
No,
wanna keep
I
poking?
think
That's
I'm
what
done.
I thought. That's what I thought. Now get
know
back
too
in your
much
corner
about
and
me.
make me a sandwich, woman. Okay, so a few things on you, Smiley. I know when we talked earlier, there were certain things that you had said, like when people find out, that you have I'm going to just call it cerebral palsy because that's what it is.
You can even say
you have a
CP.
disability makes it sound like, "Aw."
I know, right?
And I'll be honest, I don't feel that bad for you because
around.
you give too much shit to feel bad for.
I should walk around with a soundtrack and just like press a button to play all those like sitcom sound effect things.
Right.
Like, then people could look at me and I go, "Yeah, see, joke's on you. See, I'm making a sitcom out of this."
So, what are the kind of things that when people either find out online or things like that, what is it that really aggravates you, or and that I don't know. I know I would like to think that I would have your outlook, on stuff, things like that too.
Mm-hmm.
So what is that really just kind of what grinds your gears?
You don't really grind my gears, Tim. No, okay. Well, I guess to the core, a lot of what grinds my gears is probably a lot of what grinds everybody's gears, but mine are sometimes heightened because of my situation. So things like people not having enough patience, people not being willing enough to understand that things take time, or that they have to look at things from a different perspective if someone else is having trouble, or perhaps the spelling is a huge thing. I mean, as we know and have been clarified by Sib here, and probably JB, that you have terrible spelling, and I'm sure a lot of people have terrible spelling. I'm terrible as well, and you know, you'll find people online who are like, oh, if you don't post within like 2 minutes or 3 minutes, I want nothing to do with you. Be gone from me.
Right.
Or whatever.
Oh, and you and this was a
right?
simple typo, not just a misspelling because you didn't know how to spell a long, complicated word.
Right.
Apparently, you don't care
you
enough
know?
about this to continue.
Right. So
There are a surprising number of people like that, though. So
Oh,
All
yeah.
of them assholes.
I've gotten in long arguments with them. I'm like, you can't seriously refuse to RP with someone because they can't spell.
It's revenge of the grammar snobs, man. They're always
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Or they're like, I've been told I'm a terrible RPer, not because of what I do or how I roleplay, but because I don't capitalize the first word of every sentence.
Yeah. Not
I
always.
get-
Yeah, and you don't even do it always. It's just every now and then you're like, derp. And you just, get busy, or you don't, or sometimes you don't, the shift key, it's crafty. Sometimes it gets away from you.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's why the character after I is, for some reason, capitalized.
Over the years, I've had to make like emotional sacrifices with stuff like that. Like my sort of mentality when it comes to typing and replying to people and writing emails and things, I like being formal. I like being or having good diction. So I prefer So I prefer capitalizing things. I prefer using correct ways of writing. But with people, especially through RP, when you come across people with very little patience, I've in the past forced myself to be like, you know what, fuck it. I'm not going to capitalize letters. I'm not going to use periods. I'm not going to use commas or whatever. I'm just going to start lowercase and just do it as quick as possible, because you never know if they're going to leave the door
right
if they're tired of waiting for you. So while I had done that for a number of years when I first started role-playing, which was, I believe, back in 2011. So I've been gaming since 2004, but I've been RPing since 2011. And when I was first doing that, I was like, okay, everything needs to be like quick and kind of instantaneous, because as we can all attest to, we live in a very instant sort of world now. Everybody wants things on their plate instantly. And it's only maybe since 2013, 2014 that I finally just said, I don't care anymore. I'm going to do what I want to do. I'm going to do how I do it. I'm going to hopefully find people that appreciate that. You kind of have to, as weird as this sounds, swallow your own pride and be like, okay, this may not be what's going to get me in the circle, but this is what makes me me. And if I have to sacrifice what makes me me to be, for the sake of an argument, popular, then in my view, there's no point in doing it that way.
Right.
Because you're losing your own sense of self.
Well said.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And if they can't understand, what, and do you feel the need to explain it, or do you just have, maybe just among friends now, or, you're not like, hey, I'm just typing with the one hand here. I've got other issues than your inability to be patient.
Right.
I'm here to have fun. Calm down.
A part of this whole thing, the reason why I wanted to do this radio thing was to sort of have something concrete that I could refer to people if they started asking questions. And prior to this, I've always felt kind of like a broken record. Like every new person I come across that I thought might be worth getting to know, either as a person or as an RPer or to play together in a video game, eventually, my mind had said to me, like, okay, I have to eventually tell these people that I have a situation, and I have to explain to them why it's taking me so long. I have to explain them my way of doing things. And while I'm okay with explaining it to people, I've just done it for so many years and so many times that I just felt so tired of it. And while it is kind of something that people deserve to know, eventually you just kind of become numb to it. You're just like, oh my God.
And yeah, like people that have music stars and movie people that get famous for that one role, and they're just asked to do that over and over and over again. I imagine everyone wonders, like, well, why would they not want to? Why would Hugh Jackman not want to play Wolverine anymore? It's like, well, he's been doing it for 15 years. I imagine he wants to move on. He'll always be Wolverine to us.
Heck, man, I'd play Wolverine's double that's got damaged in a battle or something. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, just be like,
I'd jump in the chance.
You want me to hold your coat when you have to kill stuff? I'll do that. That's good. I'm good. I
Hey,
can do that.
Lefty's good at being a
here,
coat
so
rack.
I'll do it anything.
He is a coat rack.
That's right.
Honest to God, he's a coat rack.
Yeah.
He's good.
Okay,
But,
so speaking of that, one thing I never did actually ask you, so we'll go ahead and find out here. What is your setup like for that? Like, I know you had wanted to talk about that a little bit, so go for it. What is it like playing games, with the way you have to?
Yeah, okay. Well, my tech setup in terms of stuff that I use is probably not that much different from really hardcore gamers, because I'm sure a lot of even casual gamers probably have the same kind of equipment that I do, but I feel like it's kind of sort of overlooked in terms of being able to be used in more applicable ways. So the two things that I primarily use are a gaming mouse, which has a keyboard or a keypad on the left-hand side.
The number pad.
Yes.
Yeah, woohoo!
Which one do you use? Is
I
it
do.
the Razer or what's the Corsair is the other one?
It's called a Razer Naga Chroma.
That's...
Yep.
Oh, okay, we got the Razer Naga, but Sib is wanting to get the Chroma because that's the one with all the different colors and stuff on it, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I personally don't like putting the colors on shuffle because it's like...
Yeah, it gives me a headache.
Shiny!
Well, not only that, but...
I'm easily distracted, so that would probably not be good.
Yeah, that's kind of my point. Like, when I first plugged it in and first, started programming what I needed it to do, I get the little pamphlet, and the pamphlet says, you can program it with like 230 or 260 colors, and it's like flashing all over the place. And at first, I didn't know how to stop that. Exactly. Like, just turn down the lights.
It's just a mouse.
Hang
I
it
just
from the
want to
wall.
play.
Right. Would you like to activate music mode? No.
It's a party in your
Puts a
I know,
light
right?
between the desk, yeah.
But it got so distracting that I could see like different colors flashing in my peripheral, and I kept dying when I was trying to play games. And I'm like, okay, this isn't working. But what I did end up doing is sort of associating different colors to different parts of the mouse to easily remember what section does what.
Okay, yeah.
So, but personally, this mouse has saved my virtual ass in so many action-oriented MMORPGs.
Yeah. I'll be honest
Prior
with you.
to it.
I don't know how
Go
people
ahead.
play without this, like in ESO. I don't know how people play without it. Like, just with like pushing the 1 through 5 to do your skills and stuff.
Yeah.
I can't imagine having to use the
regular
numbers
keyboard
above there. I don't.
Perils before I got this Corsair.
Yeah. I was been thinking. I was like, Sib and I, we have the same thing, and we're like, we're playing along on this. One day, I'm like, how do people play this game without the mouse thumb buttons there? Do they actually have to use their left hand and like stop moving around for a little bit? Is that how, Jazz, is that what you do?
I have my left hand's for the mouse, and I only have a Taipan Razer, so it's a left-handed ambidextrous.
Oh yeah, you're a lefty.
I don't really use my buttons on my mouse that much for this game. Instead, I use my right hand, and I use the numpad, the
Okay,
arrow
yeah, because you're
yeah.
left
and
hand. Yeah, that makes sense
and the
for you.
4 keys above the arrow keys, and I use that side completely. So everything is coded for movement in ESO to the numpad and the direction delete and all of those, and it's very fluid for me.
Oh,
but
yeah.
if I lost my hand, then yeah, I would get one of those.
Nagas.
One of those.
Yeah. Depending on which hand I lost, obviously, I would have to choose which one I could get. But with all the buttons, and I would definitely use it at that point. But yeah, the way that I have it set up is because I use the mouse on my left hand, which freaks people out.
Which being left-handed, you're basically a disabled gamer.
I
mean,
it
anybody
feels like
disagree?
that when
Anybody-
you
In
have to
reality,
buy a
like,
freaking
what is the
mouse.
definition of disabled if not broad?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say left-handed. You're one out of 10 people definitely disabled in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's annoying because there are some games where I have bought them and I've had to return them because I can't remap.
Yeah.
An amazing number of games will not let me remap.
Yep.
And if they don't, I can't play them. Like Assassin, Creed, when I first bought it, it was 2 or 3, I forget which one it was. And you had to use their keyboard. They'd let you change some keys, but you could not remap everything.
Get
So
on
I
the
had to
Xbox,
send it back.
man. Get on the
Good.
Xbox, man. What are you doing playing on PC? Come on now.
Yeah, there are definitely some games that are just better played with an actual controller instead of a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah.
I think
still
Assassin's
love
Creed
it,
would
Jess.
definitely have to be among them. Yeah.
I could never get used to turning the character in a 3D environment on the controller. I learned how to play those games on like Mario and Link. Not Link.
So your D-pad or nothing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really hard for me
Okay.
to go from PC to that. I've tried because I've had friends who had like Oblivion and things like that back when those were out that I wanted to play, and I couldn't. I just couldn't make my left-handed brain function that way. And a lot of that has to do with the head injury too, I'm sure, because I ran into that problem in art school because I could not pull back far enough to kind of change the perspective when I was drawing.
Yeah. And
the teacher felt very strongly that it probably was the head injury, not my inability to draw like I was insisting.
Right.
That's actually something I have in common with you. My disability came about from a brain injury at birth. So that same side of my brain does not work. So
that's really hard. Yeah, no, I got whacked on the back of the head. So
No,
I
it's just for the
fled.
kids.
No, it was
Where's my dinner, Mom?
the spinal cord where it connects to the brain was yanked and it
Ooh.
bled. So all of the problems that I had are kind of both sides of the brain, but back there where the pituitary is and everything. And I went from being ambidextrous to really being left-handed after that.
Yeah. Not to be offensive or anything, but you guys joke around all the time. But that totally sounded like a finishing move from Mortal Kombat.
It was a finishing move. I just didn't
pull her
realize it.
spine out of her neck and let it bleed a little, and then try to put it back.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Scorpion
I changed my
comes
mind.
Yep.
Fatality.
Like Johnny Cage final
Yeah.
move. Here's Johnny.
Well,
Yeah.
that'll be actually in Mortal Kombat 11. They're gonna take out fatalities of disability. Almost finished them. You just see Luke Cage come out in a wheelchair, like sad.
You're awful.
I know I am.
Don't you
And
know
then when the
that?
guard's down, they'll just have the wheelchair come out with a bunch of different weapons.
Yeah.
Spew out of the sides.
Goro's gonna come out with 2 amputated arms, but they're all gonna be on one side.
Oh.
It's gonna be a full lefty. 2-armed
That
lefty.
should be a new download extra for a new game.
Disabled pact. Go.
Disability. All right.
Disabled Mortal Kombat.
Just everybody hitting each other with like pool noodles.
Joke's on you, man, because that hurts.
That actually hurts pretty good, yeah.
My boys have done damage to each other with those damn things. I can attest. I had one boy try to strangle the other boy and nearly accomplished it.
Yeah,
So,
they'll have that old fun pool noodle game where 2 of the combatants at the end of it will have water in the middle, and they'll try to blow it into the other one's mouth, and then someone will choke. Someone's lungs are always stronger. All right, so okay, so you the Naga, the technology of like the 12 key mouses, it helps you quite a bit on that.
Oh, absolutely.
It is like, so what kind of games do you like to play, and is that because you can play them, or are there games that you would like to play that you can't? How's that work out?
Well, the kind of games that I play now are mostly centered towards computer games and online games, much like Roles Online, stuff like that. That came about because back in 2004, I'm a vanilla baby.
Oh.
I know, right? Where's my binky? No,
Super cute. Super cute.
We give you a veteran reward. How's that?
Oh, okay. But back when I started playing World of Warcraft, which was my first online MMO experience, I entered the world and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Like, from a physical disabled standpoint, I could now go swimming. I could now ride a horse. I could now run, because running is something I actually cannot do at all. I could jump. I could I could ride like a motorcycle or something, or whatever.
Yeah, they have that weird motorcycle thing in there, don't they?
Now they do. I still haven't gotten
saw
the
that
motorcycle
puttering around when I tried it
That's
out.
That's one of my goals. But I enjoyed the game for the real. As weird as this may sound, I enjoyed the game for the realism that it brought. I didn't play this game for leveling up and being an elf or shooting fireballs. I played this game because I could do things in this world that I can't do outside of it. And that gave me a sense of normalcy. It made me feel like, as sappy as this may sound, it made me feel like my disability didn't matter. And like in the real world, sometimes to people it does. So it sort of gave me that anonymity to just kind of just be something else or someone else, even if it was just from a physical standpoint and not like a persona.
Right.
Yeah.
He's like our poster child for Ready Player One.
Yeah. So,
but that's cool, dude. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, and I always wonder. I just assume because I really don't try to go out of my way to offend people a lot of times, but I think sometimes when it comes to people with disabilities, some people just don't know how to react in the real world. They don't know how to react. They don't want. I think some people are more uncomfortable on their end, like they don't want to be offensive or anything like that, or they're trying not to hurt the feelings, which makes them come off and is almost more hurtful because they don't just treat someone like like the person that they actually are
with kid gloves, basically.
Right. Yeah. And I get that.
I get that a lot.
Yeah, and I get it for people with mental disabilities where they're like Down syndrome, things like that, where their mentality is that of a younger person. You still have to be careful because not all of them really are all that young. I mean, look at what's that guy from what's that, Trailer Park Boys?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that guy's going to give you as much shit as you're able to give him. Or what was that movie Johnny Knoxville did where he pretended to be disabled for the Special Olympics?
Oh, God.
House?
Yeah, something.
I know, but I can't remember, but I know what you're talking about because South Park did a spoof on it.
Right, and he actually, but he, and everyone was like, oh, I can't believe you're using these guys, and he is doing interviews with all, because they were real people with special needs and things like that and mental disabilities, and they were giving him, what was it?
They had real people with disabilities in the movie with them.
Yeah,
so.
and the people he was interviewing with, those guys were giving him more shit than he was. I mean, it was cracking him up, and they were dogging on him left and right. And he's like, I'm not treating them any different than I'm going to treat somebody else. These guys are smarter than most of the people I work with all the time.
True story.
Johnny Knoxville, so that's actually not saying a whole lot, maybe.
Yeah, that's saying the bar.
It's a very low
I have Johnny
bar.
Knoxville. Welcome to Jackass.
Right. Now watch me as I put an alligator on my nipples. Which for some people is just a good night, but we're not here to judge.
Yeah.
But I think some people just they get I mean, I could treat you with kid gloves, but would you? I mean, that'd be insulting, right? Am I wrong in thinking like if I was like, oh, I'm not going to tease you like I tease everybody else?
No, right. I mean, I think most people in my situation, whether their disability or their limitation be physical or mental, deep down, we really all just want to be treated as everyone else. I mean, we don't want to be treated normally. We have to be treated
Hold on a
different.
second there, man. You might want to. We keep having something keeps coming through where you go all Skynet on us. So you might try disconnecting real quick and then reconnect. See if that helps a little bit.
Well, he's probably a Cylon, and our
That's
system's
true.
outing him. So that's probably what's going on, Ashen.
Yeah, I don't want to miss what you're having to say, but every now and then you come. Yeah, you definitely come in all cyborg.
Slowly slide into the T-1000.
He is, man.
That's
Skynet
right.
is activating.
And here, I thought it was Poltergeist, like the TV sound.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Honestly,
I was like,
it was more like that. It was that scene in The Matrix when that silver shit goes down Neo's throat. It's like that.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what it's like. Like
yeah.
that.
I totally gagged in that scene. That was awful.
That was
I
pretty.
had nightmares of loading between zones in EQ1 when that scene hit. On dial-up, no less.
Yeah, on dial-up. Yeah. Oh man.
Especially if you just zone died of a lower gut, you're like, did I make it? Did I make it?
Did I make
Waiting internally.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll give him just a sec to make sure his connection and stuff is good there. That's one of the only downsides about having to do things over Discord is every now and then it we're at the mercy of Discord, so, and the internet connections. But yeah, and it's I personally I know because I have got the same thing. I don't want to upset somebody with if in certain ways. I know Jazz, you work in that industry,
Yeah.
And treating people with kid gloves like that is
No.
it doesn't. How far does that get you?
It doesn't, and they resent it. I mean, very quickly, because they just want to be treated like a person. And while, you have to take, with some of my clients, it into consideration.
Right.
One of the worst things that I think happens with some of my clients is that the people treat them differently. And then when I get a hold of them,
I like how she said that. When I get a hold of them.
When I grab hold of them.
and they start their crap, and I'll look at them
The
and I'll
FBI
say,
would like to know your location.
yeah. And I'm just like, dude, stop. And the one particular young lady will be like, what? And it's like, we both know you don't need to do this. Now stop it.
Yeah.
Blank. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, well, and especially when you're with what you do, where you're actually, sitting there helping them, watch after them, for a while. You get to know them, so when they start acting, pulling out for lack of a better term, the disability card. You're like, okay, for one, that's not going to work. You've just proven to me for the last 3 hours you're just as annoying and aggravating as any normal person with full abilities. And I use the word normal in quotations,
welcome back.
I'm certainly not
Smiley.
normal. And welcome back.
Thank you.
We were just talking about you behind your back. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
Don't
Good
worry
stuff.
about it. I have a small back, so it's not much to cover.
Oh, well. We will feed you. We will make you fat like Tick. You will leave here. You will roll you out. You will love it. It will be fantastic.
I like to eat
Why
very
are
much.
you not eating our food? Do you not like our food? Is our food not good enough for you?
I love food. Food is good.
All right. So getting back on track with what you were saying.
Yes.
So with that, just the ability when you first got into, say, like you're saying, World of Warcraft,
Yeah.
Was that nobody sees you as your actual self, in whatever
Right.
your situation is, whatever your setup is. They just see, okay, what were you playing, by the way?
Back in
World
the
of
day?
Warcraft. Huh?
Oh, I was playing a night elf hunter.
Nice. They just
Nice.
see
One of the most common
I
played.
was gonna say they see the most generic ass character in World of Warcraft. Literally,
Right.
you're
I
like
mean, since then
you're
I've
like a
moved
white
on to
male in
greater
America.
and greater and more interesting things, but back then I was very true to the word vanilla. Let's
Right.
just say that. But yeah.
Yeah. So, and they just, that's all they see. So, you get treated like an asshole like everybody else does on the internet. Nobody's going to be nice to you. Nobody's going to give kid gloves.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And
And
you know, I mean,
how awesome was that?
at first it was like, oh my god, that's so mean. What the hell?
You're not used to it. Like, wait, why are people all of a sudden such assholes everywhere? When did the world become
But
filled with assholes?
I literally got like within I mean, I don't remember exactly how far into the game I was when I started getting these kinds of messages, but when I was, within like first few weeks or so playing the game back in 2004, I remember getting these messages like, "Oh my God, you're such a noob. You should go, kill yourself."
Right.
I'm like, and then in my head I'm thinking, but you don't know my story. It's like I do. I have issues, but then I think to myself, oh wait.
But do I want to tell them that?
They don't see this, and
Right.
yes, I go like, do I want to tell them that? So, I found very quickly that while I was being given the same rash of shit like everybody else, that it also
Welcome to the internet, son.
Welcome to the internet, bitches. Right? No.
Pretty much.
While that had the bad side of the coin, the good side that I saw about it was that it pretty much allowed people to see me for who I was without that outer shell. Like they saw somebody with almost perfect diction. They saw somebody with a creative mind. They saw somebody who was friendly and nice and willing to listen. And that to the core is who I've always wanted to be viewed as. So my early gaming days pretty much allowed me to be seen as that, and that's something I've carried over through the years and cherished, basically.
Yeah, and now here you are, ruining it.
Yes, exactly.
Ruining it.
Hanging out with us a lot.
You had a
no
good
less.
thing going on.
Big old middle finger to the virtual world. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
The middle finger of justice is
Yes.
alive and well.
Wait! I have to wake it up. Wait a minute.
All right.
Wake up.
Just rub salt into it.
Rub salt into its non-existent eye.
That's right. Well, you know what will cure that for you. I don't know if you're aware of this, but according to everybody everywhere in the 80s, if you just rubbed a little Robitussin on that, it would fix that right up. The whole cerebral palsy thing cured by Robitussin like 20 years ago.
My God.
What was it?
Okay.
What was it? Windex.
No, that
Yes.
that's
from
that came after Robitussin, and that's only what
okay.
Right,
and it,
but
that magic
that was-
power only
was that-
works for
It
Greeks.
was so good.
Yeah, it only
But,
works for Greek people. The Windex.
No, I've actually had people, come up to me and they're like, "Okay, what do you have?" And I say, "I have this," and they go, "Have you tried this?"
Essential oil.
Have you tried Big Vapor Rub when you sleep?
I look at them like,
Are you fucking?
Okay.
Are you really this stupid? Like, oh no,
Right,
geez, I'm glad you're here. Walking Google.
right, like number one, I'm like, okay, what are you on?
And by the way, are you selling?
Right, I know, right? No, and number two, I'm like, no, there
No.
is. How could you? It's like,
You
really?
realize that's
Like-
it's not a respiratory thing, right? It's-
right. I've actually had people think that this sort of thing that I have, cerebral palsy or my disability, would have gone away over time. I have to be upfront. I have to say, no, I'm sorry. Just-
Watching
it
ignorance on
doesn't go
full
away.
display. That's great.
Wow.
And then they think it's going to get worse. And I'm like, no, it doesn't
No,
get worse.
that-
And so they, and
no,
so,
that's what
so they
Michael
go,
J. Fox
so-
has. That's not what I have.
And so I go, no, it's and they go, well, then what's your problem? I'm like,
What's your problem? Well,
Oh
for
my
one,
gosh.
the person I'm talking to isn't all that bright, but that's probably the first
exactly.
of all the
Yeah, my
things
problem
actually
is
physically
you.
wrong with me. That right now is on the top of the list.
That's
Of
when you
course,
say,
there's also there's also the people like, have you tried hypnosis?
Acupuncture. Have you? Did you try
Acupuncture.
acupuncture, Smiling? Have you tried
that's
that?
when you say your face.
no,
dude.
actually, I have not. No,
Yeah,
but I
That's
have
because
done.
it wouldn't help you. It wouldn't help
No,
you.
no. I have a fear of needles, so I don't think I'd ever
I don't know if I
get
can do that either.
acupuncture. But
I'll be honest. I
But-
don't.
I actually did, and it didn't help.
No.
But the
No.
nice part is that the acupuncturist told me he had serious doubts it would do anything to help me.
Yeah.
well, at least
Well-
he was being honest. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And I'll be honest, Smiling.
Yeah.
With you shaking, I don't know
Yeah.
if I would want someone trying to stick 100 needles in me.
Exactly,
That would
right?
probably be a bad combination. I'm
It's
just going to go with the typical thing. The little Asian lady would look at you and be like, no, it's not a good idea. You
Sounds like
You
the
need to
average
go home
Sunday
now.
down in the Bronx.
shaky too much. You go home now. You been here. You been here a full hour. I get in 1 needle. You go home.
Waste epic time.
No. I have had surgeries in the past that have, experimental surgeries. Nothing along the lines of like Full Metal Alchemist crap.
Oh
But,
man! So you can't clap your 2 arms together and make stuff yet.
No,
That's a shame.
I'm not a chimera either, but I have had experimental surgeries in the past for doctors who wanted to see, like, well, maybe this might make you better, maybe this blah 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 blah.
Might help a little bit, or maybe stop shaking,
Right.
or give you a little bit
Right.
more motion, or something like that.
Right, like
And
nothing permanent.
I'm guessing
or
by the tone of
long-standing,
your
but just
voice,
better.
all successful.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, I'm basically 100% now.
He's admitting to getting his Skynet upgrades. You guys
Yeah,
realize
I
this,
know.
right?
I'm getting a little.
Oh yeah.
He was saying how he's not Full Metal Alchemist, but I'm thinking metallic limbs at this point.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Kids think
I mean-
part robot, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Like I said, T1000.
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
right, bro. You were absolutely
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll be in the mall. I'll be walking around, and then kids will go, "Mommy, why does he look so funny?" And the parent will go, "Well, why don't you ask him?" And then they come up to me and they go, "What's wrong with whatever this is?" And then I go, "Oh, I'm part robot." And they look at me wide-eyed, like, "Oh, I just met a real robot. Oh my god!"
System malfunction. Terminate all under 4 feet. Terminate all under 4 feet.
I would be lying if I said I never thought of doing that sometimes.
Oh,
But with the
yeah.
parents around,
I know. The
Yeah.
pesky
I
parents
would do it with the parents around.
Just make eye contact with the parent all the whole time. This is what you get for telling your kid to come ask me
Yeah.
questions. This is what honesty gets you.
And you get your Death Star
Right.
gaze going, man, so you can voice them both on the spot.
Right.
I know, right?
Okay, so moving on.
Yeah.
So aside from like what you were saying about how it was, it gave you a sense of, quote unquote normalcy, or made you realize that, hey, people are gaping assholes everywhere when they don't have to think that they're gonna offend
I'm
you.
finally being accepted.
Wow, being accepted sucks. This is awful.
I know, right?
This
First
is
thought,
horrible.
being accepted. Second thought, it sucks.
It's not as
Third-
good as I would.
third
That's
thought,
not what I thought.
yeah, I think I can live with it.
But people,
But
so
whatever.
not just disabled gamers, like physically disabled. There's also mental, disabilities and stuff too. Most of
Yes.
which Sibh'Bae has personally found, role-played with, and eventually realized, holy chick, this shit's batshit and crazy, and probably
Did you say
disabled.
holy chick?
Holy
Oh.
shit. It was a cross between
Not
chick
always a
and shit.
chick.
He's absolutely right, yes.
Yeah.
Why
So-
are you putting it on the woman, huh?
Mm.
Guys, do I really need
Because
to?
the patriarchy.
That's
It's
right.
that patriarchy
It's
showing
that
through, man.
patriarchy.
Let me
Yeah.
explain it to you.
Down with women. Wait, no, that's not how that. Is that how the patriarchy works? I'll be honest, I didn't read
I think
through
it's like
the.
women are objects or something like that.
Oh, see, I didn't read through the flyer we got when I turned 18.
I didn't either. I thought it was, working hard, paying your taxes, and you're.
I went to like 5 seminars.
Yeah, see, I skipped the seminars with the male oppression stuff when I turned 18.
They
probably
They had
should
taught me
have.
how to manspread and mansplain and all that good stuff.
Well, that
Did they
I-
give you peanut butter and jelly to work with?
that's
Huh?
right.
Yes, I did.
Excellent.
Mainly jelly, though.
Oh,
Was
I
it grape
forgot.
flavored? That's the best.
Ugh.
Well, maybe
More of a
strawberry.
strawberry jelly guy.
Yeah,
but it's-
strawberry.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what's the worst
High
is
five.
the worst is the combination between the two that they sell in stores.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame. Damn shame. So anyway, I totally lost track of what we're talking about. Oh yeah, the mentally challenged people that Sibh'Bae always
Yeah.
seems to find and roleplay with.
I do find them. I'm
That
not
is
sure
how he met Jazz and I.
That is how I met Jazz and you.
Yes.
um,
So you're saying you guys were the mentally unstable ones?
thank you for pointing out the joke.
Thank you,
Yes, that's
Sam,
exactly
for saying
what
it when I didn't have to say it.
You need a rim shot
Exactly.
machine.
I really get it.
There you go.
But
What?
no, what you were going on about how it really can be kind of a nice thing. So like too with veterans, with PTSD, social anxieties, we're seeing more and more, despite what the World Organization was saying about gamer addiction, because they didn't also address, which is obviously, as we thought, is a thing, obviously addiction and
Yes.
things like that. But on the flip side, there's also people that it's a therapeutic thing. It lets them be
Absolutely.
something in a safe environment. They're in their home. They're not out, socializing with a bunch of people that they don't know, and
Right.
and it's super uncomfortable. It's of course the added benefit is online. You could also /block them. So if they're super weird,
Yeah.
But when it comes, that's definitely I like to think that that's a huge area that's really not. I mean, it's there, and obviously people that use it with a disability know about it. But normies like me, a lot of them don't think about stuff like that. They're not.
No, they really don't. No.
Most people don't think outside of more than maybe a step, maybe 2 steps outside of their situation. So. So how that the way the technology is advanced and stuff like that, is there this isn't on here, but I'm just curious, is there like are you excited for like if VR and stuff like that actually takes off? Are you is that something you've actually thought of?
Plug
in like
bit. Yeah.
like they said, Ready Player One or Sword Art Online or something, like where you put the full VR.
Like everybody's like anime orgasmic show, Sword Art Online.
Right. Yeah, and they're all the Uganda, everybody's in the Ugandan knuckles, that kind of thing.
Oh my god, I hate that meme. It's the annoying fucking thing ever. Shut the fuck up! Like, come on.
We're edgy and on the edge of stuff. We're modern. Even though we're all like from 21 to 50.
On the precipice of awesome. No, but yeah, I suppose to a degree I thought about it, but it would certainly allow me to conquer some of the things that I've always wanted to do, and also some of the fears. Like, for example, I'm afraid of being very up high without being secure or holding on to something.
Right.
That's just because I have bad balance. But
understandable.
Like, yeah.
Fear of height, that's definitely explainable. I'm not really good at being high. Well,
right.
That's wrong.
But with virtual reality, let's say they came out with a three-dimensional or whatever dimension that virtual reality game is, skydiving game. I've never done skydiving. God. I don't like heights, but I've always sort of wondered what would it be like to literally fly. Like not in an airplane, because I've done that a shit ton, and
Yeah, after your legs are just cramped, and you're like, I'm sorry, I'm constantly bumping into you, ma'am. I have no control over the right one either.
Right.
The wretched peanut.
I'm sorry. No. But
so you are, instead of being the kid in the back seat behind you, you're the guy in the right seat just to the right, and just like, sorry.
Yep.
You know what? At this point, I'm just going to go with it. I'm just going to hit you on purpose.
Right. But like, in a way, I suppose that would be kind of nice, like experiencing things that I've always thought about doing, but were, from a physical standpoint, impossible to achieve. The only thing I would have to conquer first is sort of my fears of not really being aware of my physical body, because with the virtual reality, you're kind of like sort of narrowed in or tunnel visioned into whatever you're seeing, and you from my understanding, you feel, see, and hear like whatever game you're playing, and you're not really.
Yeah, it's very easy. I mean, we all seen the funny videos where people are like, they lean down on the virtual table. They're so enraptured with it, they lean to go on a virtual table that's not there and just fall flat on their face.
Right.
That's why I always refuse to do VR forever.
Yeah.
So,
and the guy that got himself killed in Russia because he fell through a glass table while using his VR, even though they warned you to keep the area clean. Maybe don't have glass. By the way, too, if you got glass tables in your house still, probably the 80s called and they want their furniture back. Yeah, you shouldn't have that anymore.
I have boys. I'm not allowed to have glass.
Yeah. Yours is all wood, and then Jay had to come and cover it in Nerf foam.
Yeah.
Did you just say the 80s called and they had their glass tables back?
Yeah.
Because when I met you, I think you had a glass.
And guess where we bought?
Oh,
wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, we did. We had a glass end table, but that was also because it was all we could afford.
We had a glass end table. It
was all I could afford when I moved out of the house.
Yep.
This is funny.
Yeah.
Hey, you get a pass for that, though.
Right.
I got,
Yeah. And
No,
as soon as I
no,
was,
Sibh'Bae,
as
you
soon
don't
as I
get
was
the
able to,
pass-in.
what did I do? I got rid of it.
Yeah,
And then you know what
you did.
happened? I couldn't get rid of it. I couldn't give that shit away for free. Like, hey,
No.
we have
Could've
this,
gave it
and
to
it
me,
was
man.
it was nice white marble, and it was glass on top, and it's like, hey, this is free. Anybody want it? Crickets. Anybody at all?
I
Crickets.
would have taken it.
should have hit me
but
up, dude. I would totally would have done it.
It would have ended up in my barn along with every fucking
Right, and
thing
your
else.
kids, one of your kids ended up in a hospital with contusions from falling through it.
Right,
We were
right.
having
It
a
would have
Nerf
gone down
gun
the barn.
fight.
Yeah, that's why Nerf guns aren't allowed in my house because I know there'd be a hospital visit soon
Right.
after.
It's kind of
Mom,
funny that
they're
they call
harmless.
They are
it's kind of
harmless.
funny that they call Nerf guns, and Nerf is kind of a word to sort of make things softer or something,
I
and
think
they
that-
end up causing more pain.
Yeah, that's
But-
definitely
Nerf or nothing.
Nerf or nothing. Yeah, because everything else that would be the nothing is garbage and absolutely not. Like, I bought non-Nerf once. It was a wooden plank. It was just you just threw wood at each other. It was not really. I mean, it was a soft wood. It was an ash wood, but it was still very, very wood.
That was our Nerf back in the day.
Man, back in my day, we just threw 2x4s at each other, and we were glad to be able to do
But
it.
You know, we did have those, well, back in my day. I'm just feel old. We had those darts that you would throw up in the air.
oh, remember
Lawn
those
darts.
lawn
Yes.
darts? Those
Yeah,
were so much
that are
fun.
outlawed
It wasn't
now.
no 2x4, but it was a dart.
Yeah. Who would have
No,
thought?
they're outlawed.
Danger.
Who would have thought a 3-pound dart thrown up 40 feet into the air? Not a good idea.
Around drunk people.
Right,
Yeah.
around people
Gee,
drinking
who didn't
on a-
see that one
on
coming?
a 20 by 20 square foot backyard in the Bronx. Maybe not a best idea. Who would have
Somebody
thought?
wasn't thinking.
See, at that point, that's just natural selection.
But that was the 80s too. 80s, you could get away with that stuff. They didn't care. That was the surplus population days. They're like, yeah, whatever. Just get rid of them. We don't care.
Okay.
That's
But-
like, that just made me think of a funny story. I'm going to tell it now, even though it really doesn't have a whole lot to do with this. We were at a picnic,
Mhm.
and a young punk gentleman decided to run through where we were camping and having our cookout, and grab one of the ladies' purses and dash across the lawn with it.
Getting
And
this thief started early.
yeah, he was like maybe 15, 16 years old. He was pretty young. All dressed out like a thug and everything else. And he went running.
He lives on the edge, man. He doesn't give a shit.
He didn't really pay attention to what everybody was playing, which was horseshoes. So a bunch of old men with nothing better to do threw like 6 horseshoes at him, and they all hit him, and he went down like a rock. He ended up in the hospital. And yeah, it was that, but it just made me think of that. That was one of those funny moments where I just covered my mouth and went, "Oh," before it happened. I saw it happen.
Now, every time he sees a horseshoe, he's going to think twice.
It's like he gets a cold sweat and starts shaking. He's just like, the horseshoes are gonna get me. The horseshoes are gonna get me.
I mean, he seriously made it like 15 feet.
Yeah,
Before
those
the
things.
horseshoes
I mean,
hit him. It was quick,
those
and he
things
was just
boomerang.
like,
They're it's like a metal frisbee. You just chuck that. And
Yeah, it is.
"Yep."
That's the sound it makes.
It sounded like a gun going off.
Yeah.
And he
That
went
was
down.
that was the first thing I had thought, because given you living out in the boonies, I was expecting to say, so we were skeet shooting when he robbed his purse. So I suggest you stop.
Backside full of birdshot.
You'd better stop, young man. No, nobody was ever that stupid. I think he felt safe because we didn't have any guns that he could see, so he thought it was fine.
Yeah, horseshoes apparently not made of Nerf.
Yeah, well, it was really painful for him. Enough of my hillbilly stories. Back to the.
All right, put the banjo down, Jazz. We're gonna get back to the show now.
Yeah.
No, that's pretty good. I like that. So yes, I was just curious about the VR stuff because obviously too the buy-in price right now is also ridiculously high for a decent, gear. And I don't count the Google Cardboard where using your phone. That's I mean it's a fun gimmick, but that's not what real
it's
VR
not
is
really
gonna be
VR.
like. Yeah.
Now I'll tell you, in art school we had a VR thing where we could we would recreate in 3D like somebody would show a picture of a table, and then we had to recreate it just by looking at it. It was very hard. And then we went into the 3D machine, and it would recreate it holograph style when you had your glasses on, and you could see what you created would look like. So it was really cool. So that was early on. That was in 2013.
Yeah.
So it was still very young. But I'm sure it's much better now, but that was really cool.
Yeah. I know, like the Vive Pro, they just announced, I think it was the Vive. It's like, it's over double the resolution of the current generation of stuff, so it'll be crystal
I'm sure
clear.
it would be awesome, but it was really cool and a little disorienting to wear the glasses.
Yeah. And I know it'll take off eventually, but I still think it's got probably another 5-10 years before it really takes
I
off.
want a hologram, damn it. I want a holodeck. I want a holodeck.
Holodeck. I think is a little.
I was going to say, because holograms already exist. They just don't use it that much.
I want a holodeck.
We could get you one of those creepy girlfriends from Japan holograms. We can get you one of those that pretends that it's your girlfriend.
Oh,
hey, they make boys, by the way.
Oh, I'm sure they do make boys, but the commercial shows a girl.
You know what I would want? I would want a hologram that acts as double, so that way I can switch in with it if people look at me and they think they see me disabled, but then my hologram jumps in and I'm normal, and then they think they're crazy. That would be perfect.
like the full body. What was
awesome?
Yeah, the full body holograms that they use in some of the sci-fi stuff.
Double take, and they do the Chris thing, like whoa. That would be great.
The whole holodeck thing. I gotta say, Dad, they covered it in Star Trek original series. The whole holodeck addiction. I have a feeling that would be on a massive scale. If that was the deal.
Yeah. I would not come out but to eat and sleep. That's it.
It'd be like the Japanese. They found you dead in your room, hooked up to your video game machine, and that was like.
Yeah. What was if anybody watch if you watch Black Mirror, that first episode that they did that was basically the Star Trek ripoff. That one was almost about like a gaming kind of addiction. It was a great episode, and it went super dark, like way super dark. And yeah, that's a great show. If anybody's not ever watched Black Mirror on Netflix, dude, you're missing out. They're not all fantastic. They're not all winners. But if you're a fan of the old Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, that show is heads and tails above even that stuff, because it deals with a lot of the future stuff that technology might bring our way. Really
I've had two friends recommend that now. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. There's definitely a difference, because I think the first 2 seasons, maybe 3, were BBC, and then they stopped doing it. Netflix bought it, but the quality is still just as good. So it's got some really good stuff in it. But that's completely unrelated to what we're talking about today. So when it comes to the gaming, as you were saying, when it comes to MMOs, what was it that brought you into like role playing in that? Was that a gradual thing, or did you start with D&D like some people do? How'd you find role play to like pretend to be, I know you said you had the avatar, and that was, people treated you like shit with that, because that's what people do.
Yeah.
But when did you find role play and like, hey, I can be like literally just an entirely new person?
Right. I actually got into roleplay by accident. It was in 2011, and it was in a game called Rift. It's a free-to-play model, and it's actually one of my favorite games feature-wise. And I can get into why I like certain features in games a little later on, but how I got into roleplay was by accident, and the way that it happened was I made a character. It was my first ever character for that specific game, and I was just enjoying playing around, and I eventually found this feature that the game had called Dimensions. And I was like, oh, cool, what's kind of this? And I, in the real world, come from a creative background. I'm an artist, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a cartoonist, I'm a part-time caricature portrait person.
You do silly voices because you're a silly.
I do silly voices, so silly voices, yes. And I actually, a shout out to RPHQ. I've done some voice job stuff for them as well. So, anyways, I was checking out the game and checked the feature called Dimensions, and I looked into it. I was like, oh, you can actually build your own environment, build your own house, build your own little town or city or whatever you want. And they had this option to look at other people's creations. And so I just kind of started to look at other people's dimensions. And I came across one that was full of people. And I walked up to one and I was just going to say, oh, hey, cool little area place. And they started talking to me in character. And I was like, okay. So I just kind of mirrored what they were doing, not knowing really what it was. And eventually, through a whisper, which was out of character, they explained what it was. And I was like, oh, this kind of sounds kind of neat. Like, you get to create your own story with your character and with your environment. And that's how I ended up getting into it. And over the years, as I kept doing it, I sort of used it as a storytelling outlet. And I started creating artwork and short stories to go along with characters. And I was able to sort of merge the storytelling with my love of artwork, and that's the way it's been ever since.
Yeah. So
Very nice.
Yes. And like, do you like, what kind of stuff do you like to role play as? Like, you just whatever comes to mind, or does it change from game to game?
Yeah, it does change from game to game depending on what's available as far as race is concerned.
It always comes to race with you people.
It's always the race card,
Man.
If you're not this race, then nobody wants anything to do with you.
That's right.
I mean, that's how it goes sometimes. But
that is true. But
no, it is. World of Warcraft gnomes. Oh my God, I played one for 15 minutes. Okay, and I got so much. I basically got the same amount of hate that I got back in 2004. It was so bad. I was like, oh, hey, you want to quest for a while? And I literally got a whisper that said, sorry, I would, but gnomes are gross. Oh, my God. I was like, ouch. But
yeah, gnomes are the World of Warcraft version of halflings.
If
They're just disgusting.
People ever want to know why gnomes are so rare, this is why.
That's why.
Because they don't get enough love, and they will never get enough love.
Even back in EQ1, it was. There's a reason that people were happy with doing drunken gnome races in Calethin, because nobody cared seeing 100 gnome corpses at the bottom of the everything. No one. It's like, oh well, it's a gnome. You can make more.
But as far as character archetypes, I like to play ones that, on some level, mimic sections of my life. I actually have like 7 or so personas that I developed over the years that I recycle depending on what game I'm in. I have a character literally called the Smiling Sorcerer, which is where the handle came from 2011, that lives with sort of like this debilitating sickness, and kind of almost like what I get mistaken for, muscular dystrophy, except he's just kind of almost 24/7 poisoned. And so in order to live, he has to siphon energy from other people. So he's kind of like a necromancer kind of thing, but sort of like sucking the life out of people, but not vampire style.
Yeah.
There's I got a couple of dwarves. I love dwarves. I'm a huge fan of dwarves. I know a lot about dwarven mythology in real life. Not specific to any game, just actual mythology according to dwarves. One of them that I'm playing now has a handle that I've had since 2012, and he's essentially a dwarf that comes from Viking mythology, who was born from the earth, but then wakes up in current times, depending on whatever game he's from. And he, in World of Warcraft, anyway, he's sort of learning the ways of the world and using technology to his advantage. And in that regard, that's something that I relate to, as far as using technology to benefit my own life, and that's what he's doing as well. And as far as the Smiling Sorcerer persona goes, I have aches and pains every damn day.
Right.
That is the core to where I got the idea for that character, and it was pretty relatable in that sense. And
just
then the only other one, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the name, the Smiling Sorcerer, other than the character name, or for the reason for the character name, was, and this is going to be another shout out to RPHQ, but they were going to be hosting a storytelling contest. And I always kind of wanted to tell the Smiling Sorcerer story because I sort of crafted it in my head to sort of be a fantasy version of my own life. And so I contacted them. I said, hey, can I write a short story for the contest? And they said yes, and I actually ended up winning. And that's how I ended up becoming one of the staff members for that community. So it was double up on that.
Yes.
So I have a quick question while we're doing stories. Do you actually do a lot of writing? And
yes.
If so, do you post it where other people
where can people find it?
Yeah. I am actually in the works of creating the majority of my content. And I am also in the works of creating my own blog. I do some HTML work on the side. As of right now, though, the stuff that I have posted can be viewed on RPHQ. That's Roleplay headquarters.
.org.
Yeah,
.org.
I was going to make sure at the
yeah, .org. The blog section is literally just called The Smiling Sorcerer, same as my handle. I have like maybe 6 or so articles up right now. The majority of the content that I will be creating is actually going to be interactive, so a lot of what I write is going to be influenced by audiences' votes. I usually leave it up to them to decide. Like I have this story going on called I actually forgot what I called it. But,
it was so good he doesn't remember.
I know, right? It was so good.
It's amazing. It's fantastic. What was it again?
I know, right? it does have to do with the Smiling Sorcerer persona, the actual character. But it chronicles his adventures through a fantasy world which mimic my adventures through multiple MMOs and the social interactions that I've gone through. But at the end of every episode, I leave it up to viewers who've read the post what happens next. So I give them 2 options. Does he say screw it and burn the whole world down to a crisp, or does he try to change his ways and work with the people that he's in a party with? And then depending on
it's a choose your own adventure blog.
Yeah, kind of. Yep. I mean, and that's not the only stuff I have going on. I mean, I have in the future I have plans for a series that talks about how fantasy races were originally created from errors in history. Like I was talking about earlier, dwarves were originally thought up by Vikings, so I have an article that talks about that. I'm going to have ones that talk about gnomes, elves, various things like that. Where they actually came from and how they were thought up. I mean, most people
world doppelgangers or origins.
Right, not necessarily from like literature and whatnot, but from things like that. And
like
I
where
also have
figured it out from originally.
Right, right. And then I have a third series, which I have, I think, 2 or 3 articles up currently on rphq.org. That I call MMO Impact, and it actually talks about a lot of the stuff that we've been talking about tonight, which is essentially the social side or emotional side of MMOs and the benefits and even the troubles that come with playing MMOs and stuff. And I talk about 2 different things in each episode. Each episode has like a topic, and then I talk about the impact that topic has through an MMO, and then I give a little personal story about my experience. And then I sort of leave it to a forum discussion to have other people share their experiences, and then I read them all, and then I pick kind of my favorite, and then I give them a sort of quote-unquote unofficial Smiley badge, and they end up winning things like, like maybe I think the last episode I did, I gave away 1,000 gold in a game of their choice or something. Yeah. So
that's cool.
I give away like certain rewards and stuff. But as of right now, because of winter, and this harks back to my disability, winter is not a very forgiving time for me. So I will be, while most of it is on hiatus right now, I am slowly putting together more articles and the majority of them will continue to come out as the weather gets better. So
yeah.
But I do have huge plans and stuff. And,
yeah. Okay, so going back real quick, one thing we can tangent off on. When you had mentioned Rift, you said mechanically it was one of your favorite games, and I know clearly some games are going to be more friendly to someone in your situation or other situations compared to others. Like I'm imagining something real twitchy like Overwatch or something like that, probably a little bit of a difficult game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not real stuff that's real time sensitive and moves real super quick and things like that. Which I mean, the ESO is not exactly a slow game, but it really can with these mice. It really can almost be done. Almost one handed.
And I would say that's probably feature wise. That's my second favorite MMO to play because of the class and weapon system it has. It's so customizable that I can essentially make a class from scratch for myself that literally plays on my abilities as a person.
What you can do physically.
Exactly. And I can sort of translate that into a virtual avatar. And that's the same reason why I like Rift so much. They have this system in place where instead of picking a class and getting a certain predetermined set of skills, you pick a base class. I think there's like 6 or 5 now. The stereotypical warrior, priest, rogue, whatever. And then every class has what they call souls to pick from. And they have about 11 per base class. And then you can, with talent trees, pick any 3 to combine into 1 and choose how far to take each tree with a point system. So you can essentially pick and choose individually what skills you want to put in your overall pool.
Yeah.
And so that allows me to do something like before my equipment that I got, I was never able to play things like a knight or a warrior or a rogue or any kind of upfront damage dealing class. I always stuck to people or classes that attack from far away. But with Rift or with Elder Scrolls, I can sort of be like, okay, I've always wanted to be like this, heroic warrior or paladin or,
charging into battle, blade out,
right,
and screaming at the top of your lungs.
Right. And so I could
swaying gently in the breeze.
Exactly.
Right.
I love killing things. But, if my MMO career hasn't defined that enough, but with those kind of features in place, I can essentially take a base class of a warrior, but instead of just having him do up frontal damage, and then having a hard time literally walking over to the next enemy to do something, I can give him teleportation skills. And so I'm no longer just a warrior. I'm a arcane dude with a sword that can literally just jump right into your face and start hacking, and then once I'm done, jump to the next one.
Right.
That takes out the whole tedious walking from one place to the next, which is difficult for somebody like me.
Right.
So,
yeah, the avoiding the red circle kind of thing, and being able to jump out of the way easily enough.
Right. So instead of having to worry about, the dodging or whatever, I just press one key for the teleportation skill or whatever I have, and
Bam.
That sort of takes the place. Yeah. So I love games like that allow me to just sort of home cook my own class and my own sort of skill list. But unfortunately, a lot of games don't. Or, I mean, they're slowly getting into that now, but back in the day, they just didn't have that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, it's something that I will always pick over something else. But as sad as it is, games like that, while they are innovative, I feel like, at least in terms of Rift specifically, they don't have as much of the audience as the time true and tested games like World of Warcraft does. So if the primary reason
that here in a sec too, because I'm curious about that. Real quick too. One thing, everybody, we are a call-in show, and I forgot to mention it earlier. So if you're on our Discord at rpmmmoradio.com/Discord, or you're in there already, if you've got a question or you want to ask Smiley something, just go into our caller waiting room. We'll bring you on live, and you can ask him directly. If you've got a question and you're shy or you don't want to, just ask it.
Type it in the chat.
Right. We've got plenty here where he's reading it. We're all reading it. So that's, just feel free. It's interactive. You guys are more than welcome to ask him a question.
Games.
As you can tell, he may be shy and a little aloof, but he's slowly coming out of his shell. Just be gentle. Talk down to him.
Like the rest of us.
Right. Small words. Small words. Use small words. And he'll answer your questions. But yeah, I just want to get that out. Going back to what you were saying there. World of Warcraft has a shit ton of buttons.
Oh my God, yes.
So how did you manage that one? Obviously, that was reason it's not on your top 2 list.
Yes.
And I'm sure back in vanilla it wasn't as bad
Blizzard,
as it is
no
now,
offense to,
but
yes, that is correct. And I mean no disrespect to Blizzard as a company. I mean no disrespect to anybody that plays World of Warcraft and that it's their favorite or whatever. But the way that I play WoW is essentially through add-ons and their changeable interface. So I downloaded a lot of add-ons through curse.com and sort of compiled what I thought would be quality of life for me on a personal level, and just kind of hand built my own interface and screen, all that sort of stuff. So before I got into the game again, after a break from being a vanilla baby, which I spent from vanilla to Wrath, and then I took a break, and then I came back in MOP, I think they call it, Mr. Pandaria.
Yeah,
it was a MOP.
People.
MOP. I know, people said it wasn't really that great, but I'm a huge fan of pandas. I mean, not necessarily, I'm not saying World of Warcraft pandas. What I'm saying is, as an animal, I love bears and I love pandas.
What about those that do kung fu? Are you into kung fu pandas?
I actually do kung fu. I am a 2nd degree black belt martial artist.
Well, there you go.
So the fact that I could come back into the game, be my favorite animal, and have martial art powers, that was like the shit.
So you were the one person they made the game for.
That literally is how it felt. That is literally how it felt to me. I was
like pandemonium.
Exactly.
I'll be here all night, everybody. Try the V. You should have tipped
So what I ended up doing is I watched Let's Plays of World of Warcraft, or as recent as I could, before getting back into the game. After I got an invite from a friend who was also from RPHQ, who I was originally going to do an interview with about being a dwarf. That was going to sort of complement some of the articles I did about character types and classes and stuff on some of my articles. But I looked, he says, I'll get you back in the game. I'll tell you any questions you have. And I was like, all right, cool. And I'll start researching videos. And so I did. And I looked up, how people play, how different it was from back in vanilla, and what kind of things were available as far as add-ons and everything. And I went to the website Curse after it was recommended for a lot of Let's Plays, and started sort of searching, okay, what are things that I could use, not necessarily to make things prettier or more immersive, but what are some add-ons that I can use to make my journey as a one-handed gamer easier and more enjoyable? Because I think everybody here, and probably in chat and Twitch and everybody listening, can agree with, is that a big part of enjoying a game has to do with the interface. I mean, it's how you access the skills, it's how you access your character, it's how you access everything within the game. And if it's really clunky or really just crowded with a bunch of crap, or isn't really modded right, or however you want to put it, people aren't going to feel very comfortable. So the main thing I was looking for was add-ons that made me feel comfortable and made me able to sort of react in a way that someone with 2 hands could. So I found like 3 or 4 add-ons that I was able to really just customize completely to benefit my skills or lack of. So I can name them if people are interested. Bartender 4 is one of the main ones I use. They actually allow you to move and customize up to, I think, 16 or 12 hotbars.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can put them vertical, you can put them horizontal, you can make them, instead of all 12, you can say, oh, I want a hotbar with 2, 3, 4, whatever. So you can put them anywhere you want. I disabled the original chat and put an add-on to actually move the chat into the center so that everything that is important is literally just right there.
Right in front of your face, yeah.
Right. The main thing I've always had playing any games, regardless of whether I had my technology available or not, was being able to look at multiple things in different parts of the screen and reacting in time to certain situations. So I felt like, okay, if I was able to get something that could put everything in eyesight, in sort of, like I was talking earlier, tunnel vision, basically, then I could essentially just have everything within eyesight and focus and be able to just kind of plow straight through without having to worry about where's this, where's that, where's this coming from, do I have to look at this? I almost kind of thought of it as driving a car, you know, and while I can drive and while I do drive and pretty decent at it and I haven't had any accidents yet, knock on wood, yet to come, who knows, stay tuned for episode 2.
Dun, dun, dun.
I felt like having it in the center would allow me to just kind of be more goal focused and be able to achieve the same level of play as everybody else. So other than Bartender, I was able to find something called Move Anything, which literally allows you to move the entire interface. And then something called Sexy Map. And if I could do a whistle sound effect, I totally would. And that allows you to move and decorate the map however you wish. So I was able to sort of put that closer to the center of the screen or over to the side on the lower hand, so everything was essentially from the bottom up instead of on all 4 corners of the screen or littered across all the borders. And so it really helps a lot. And I think people think of interfaces as sort of eye candy, and
right.
It's totally more than that. I mean, yes, it can be eye candy. Yes, it can make things look cleaner and prettier, but it just goes so much more deeper than that, and it really should be thought of more as a utility rather than, oh, it needs to look crisp and clean. It's like, it doesn't matter if it looks butt-face ugly, okay? You don't have to buy it a drink before you take it out on a date.
Yeah. You're not there because, you're willing, you can put a bag over its head as long as it's functional.
Exactly. And for me, function was the main part, at least in terms of World of Warcraft, that definitely aided with the add-ons. So,
yeah, yes, yeah, and a bad UI. I mean, for anybody, a bad UI could absolutely just destroys a game, you know. And that the button bloat, as they call it, it's bad, especially those older games like World of Warcraft, EverQuest 2. Final Fantasy 14 is real bad about it. Lotro doesn't seem too bad overall.
It's not terrible.
It's not as bad as those. It still has quite a few, but it's not. Yeah. It's not like 6 bars of skills and
workable.
Bullshit.
It's workable. Yeah. You can move around the interface in Lord of the Rings Online pretty decently, and that's actually one of the 4 games that I still play.
Yeah. What about macros? Does those come in real handy with you?
As a role player, definitely.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily do them for skills because with the interface change, I can essentially I can accomplish that easily with the interface change with skills. But as a role player, macros save, like I've said before, my virtual ass. I usually, once I get a handle for the game, if I've not been in it for a while, or if it's a new game I'm trying out, and I want to stick around and I want to test out the roleplay waters, I make a handful of macros that literally cater to certain like situations somebody would come across within roleplay. So like if somebody waved at me, I would create a macro that said, okay, target this person, say this in emote chat, and do this emote. And then I would just have to click it in response. That way I don't have to sit there and deal with people who aren't patient enough and just be like, okay, I say this, I say that, blah, blah. So
yeah, you don't have to, for the basic introductions, you got it down pat. Do you have,
I got
what
it
kind of
down,
keyboard do you have? Do you have the ones like the Logitech that have, like mine's got like the G1 through 6 on the left-hand side? Is it something like, is it a setup like that? Which even though I don't use those damn buttons, they're just there.
Actually, I recently, I think it was like the last month or so, I ended up getting just a basic USB port keyboard.
Yeah.
It's nothing special. It's just like $20 from Staples.
Yeah.
Prior to that, I just used the keyboard that was in my laptop, but because I'm a huge button smasher,
Me too. Me too.
I know, like who isn't nowadays?
I hate the
But,
buttons. I hate the buttons so good.
Yeah, you like that? You like that buttons? Yeah, take it. No,
Take it, button.
I ended up smashing them so much, at least specific keys like
WASD.
No, actually, I actually used the arrow keys for that.
Oh.
Until I got my mouse, I used the arrow keys. But like shortcut keys for your friends list, or or, for your skills, like 1 through 12 or whatever. A couple of those keys ended up falling off of my laptop, and nowadays, I know, nowadays you can't go in and be like, hey, can you just replace the keyboard section of my laptop? They just look at you like you're crazy and say, nope, just buy a new one.
Buy a new one, yeah.
But I'm so hesitant about getting into the higher, or not higher, but the newer versions of Windows, that I want to keep my Windows 7 alive as long as possible. So I ended up going the redneck route, and I duct taped cardboard over my original keyboard.
Nice.
And I laid my USB port keyboard over it. So that's
some MacGyver shit right there.
Yeah, but it is.
Fit right in with all.
Pretty good at
that's
MacGyver.
like redneck MacGyver.
But yeah, as far as right now, I'm not using a special keyboard. It's just pretty much the mouse, and I do also have a separate. I forgot what it's called, but I have a separate piece of tech that is essentially a numpad with, I think, 2 or 3 times as many buttons on it, and it's by Razer, those guys that offer all those high tech stuff.
Yeah, all that cool. Yeah, a lot of real great gaming stuff.
And sometimes what I'll do is I'll plug it in and I'll kind of use it as like a bunch of hotkey type stuff. And,
yeah.
And I can actually program it for my software as well, like Photoshop and Illustrator. I can program it to run filters and things, so it has more use than just a gaming device, but it primarily is a gaming device.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in the future I'll get, or at least when the weather gets better, I want to go shopping for a new drawing tablet because I need one for work. And I'm hoping to get like one of those Cintiq ones where you can just kind of lay it on the table and use it as a drawing tablet and a computer. So that would be interesting, because then I wouldn't even need the mouse. I would just need my wireless pen, and I could control my game characters with a pen, and I'm really good with the pen.
Yeah,
so
I bet. Have you ever watched? Are you a fan of comic books and stuff?
I am absolutely a fan of comic books. Right now, I am currently reading Stephen King's graphic novel adaptation of Dark Towers.
Yeah, it's one of our. Sib and I. That's one of our favorite book series of all time.
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah,
I'm in for a good show.
I will say that Stephen, if you're out there, if you happen to listen to this,
Steven Universe.
Yeah, stop narrating your fucking books on audio because you're a fucking terrible narrator. Great writer, horrible narrator. Pay the extra 20 grand. Get a professional to do it because you're shit. You ruin your books by narrating it yourself. Desperation, not a bad book, not so great when you do it. So, yeah.
Fun fact,
bad.
actually, speaking of audiobooks, Christopher Lee, who plays Saruman in the movies, Lord of the Rings, does the audiobooks for Lord of the Rings books.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
Is that
That's
guy?
pretty outstanding.
Yeah, there's some really
There's
some great guys.
I should totally look into that because I've tried to read the original, and I mean the original Lord of the Rings books. My dad has the collection.
Oof, they're rough.
I cannot get into that. I mean, I love the story, I love the movies, but I just can't read the original text. So maybe I should just do audio.
Oh, you Philistine! Just read it. It's better.
Audible.com, dude. I've been part of them for years. You know, I know a lot of podcasts. Oddly enough,
they don't sponsor, but they could.
They're not a sponsor of ours, but here's some. They're fantastic. You know, give
us money.
George Liddell and stuff that did the Dark Tower. He only did half the books because the original guy got in a motorcycle accident and he wasn't able to finish, and I think George Liddell was the one that finished it up. And he's got that gravelly voice, and he's perfect for Roland Deschain. And they're just the most recent one that everyone's talking about, Artemis, the one written by the guy that did The Martian.
Okay.
The narrator's the chick, if you've watched the Netflix series, The Night Nurse. She's the night nurse from like The Punisher and Daredevil and stuff like that. She's the one that narrates that, and she did fantastic. It was really good. That it's audiobooks are a great way to listen to stuff these days, and Audible is really, really good. It's really easy for less than $30 a month. You get 2 credits, and you can get a $45 book, for 1 credit.
Sweet.
So it's
pretty nice.
And the Dark Tower series is totally worth the money. Maybe skip stuff that Stephen King decided recently to read himself. Not so good. But
damn it, with a man from Nantucket.
Okay, so the most recent one, and this is just going to be my gripe. Has anybody ever heard of a cop car called a Caprice?
No, it sounds like a...
What the hell is that?
Right.
It's like Capri Sun drink.
Right, yeah, it's a Capri. And he called, through the entire book, he called it a fucking, and the cop came around the corner in his Caprice.
Gosh.
Fucking,
That's
you
like
know
saying
what? Come out of your house. Come out of your house, talk to people, maybe cops, and learn how to pronounce the shit that you're spelling. I'm going to give advice to Stephen King, but still, at least I can speak fucking English. Caprice. It's a Caprice Sun.
Caprice Sun.
I want to have
that one strawberry flavor.
Oh, Sunny D, some orange stuff. Oh, Caprice Sun.
I know.
You get so wailed on in school for saying that.
Seriously, you would, and rightfully so. I don't typically encourage bullying, but if you ever hear a kid call something a Caprice, beat him up. Just smack the
Press
shit
your face,
out of him.
dude. It's on.
Meet me at the jungle gym.
After school at the flagpole.
It's funny.
The old days.
Man.
So yeah, we're kind of we'll start wrapping things down here.
Sure.
There's one last thing kind of I want to note. So being in online, we'll go to the negative side of roleplay. A lot of drama queens. A lot of drama,
Yep.
Have you ever met someone that they're like, "Oh, I've got a disability or I've got this and that," and you're like, no, you don't. You're just fucking.
You don't even
just a
know.
jerk. You're just.
You don't even know.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, do you ever have people that it's like claim to have a disability? And it's like it's not mental. They're just an asshole. Like
disability poser. Yeah. That's entertaining.
Yeah.
And frightening.
Yeah. I have had people do that. Although because it's online, I can never verify if they're telling the truth or not. But I have a lot of people who come up and say, "Oh, I totally know what you're going through. I totally know what you're talking about.
Hangnail.
I have this. I have that. Right? And because I can't discredit it or figure out if it's true or not, I just say,
Right.
I appreciate for your understanding and so on and so forth.
Right. We'll go with the other thing where they're like, yeah, I understand. You have cerebral palsy. That's awful. And it's the one-upsmanship where they're like, yeah, I get that. You can't use your left hand. It flips people off randomly. The finger of justice. I know exactly.
Here's one for you.
I know exactly what you're going through. My hair extensions don't stay in.
Oh.
Have you ever had somebody
that's totally equal to what I'm going.
We all know these people that are. It's like my uncle just died, and my grandmother murdered him in his sleep because he didn't do the dishes or whatever fucked up thing. It's like, oh yeah, I know what you mean. My cat ate my goldfish last week.
No, I'll get a lot of people who try to relate and try to tell me their sob stories for the sake of just trying to
relate,
or even just wanting to tell a sob story.
Yeah,
people
love to tell a good sob story.
They and what better place to do it than online, because there's really no consequence.
Right.
I mean, if people get in trouble or if they don't agree, all you have to do is delete your character and start over. Nobody would even know the wiser.
And if you say something like "Pix" or "It didn't happen," then you're the asshole.
Exactly. So
I love that line. Pix or didn't happen, bro.
Pix or you're not disabled. That doesn't really work,
Right.
Like you could send them a picture and be like, "Trust me, in this one, I'm really shaking badly." But it's a picture, It's like, well, but look at this glorious beard. Nobody with a beard like that could possibly be disabled. It's impossible.
Exactly.
Glorious beard.
No, I mean, I try to handle it as best as I can. I try to, be as humane as I can, be as polite as I can. But sometimes if they just keep trying to put negative crap on you, even if it's theirs or yours or their comments or whatever, even if you try to be nice about it, eventually you have to suck up and be that kind of person that just goes, oh, ignore, or I'm gonna go this way. You go over here.
Have a good one. I'm gonna go get some nugs.
Right. I mean, it's unfortunate, but that happens online just as much as it happens.
Right. I just because we've been doing it for so long. I've heard hundreds of sob stories. And some of them are legitimate. I've known people that they've got fears of going out in public. They they don't like to leave their house, or they're really antisocial when it comes to being in person. And that stuff I get. But there's and then there's the ones that it's like, didn't you just say what you had last week is completely contradictory to what you're claiming is the problem this week? Could you at least keep your lie straight? What are you? What are you, a politician? Come on now, at least lie correctly. But
it's gaming and socializing is for people with limitations. It's going to have its positive. It's going to have its negatives,
right? Like it does for everybody. But it's different. Definitely seems like it's got different sets of positives. That other people may not even realize, like you expressed earlier.
Right. I mean, if I was gonna, I know we're coming up on 10 o'clock, or at least 10 o'clock for me, 9 for you guys.
It's always about you East Toasters.
East Toasters.
East Toasters. Damn East Toasters.
I like that word.
East Toasters.
East Coasters. Like that's any better. Just because we put a drink on you doesn't mean you're better than us.
I know, but if I was gonna give the audience some advice, or for anybody who's listening or watching.
What are your final thoughts?
If I was going to give my final thoughts to anybody who's either with limitations or not, I know this kind of sounds cheesy and maybe sort of basic, but the world has enough assholes. The world has enough people that load crap onto barges and onto your shoulders.
Yep.
If you want to be treated a certain way, treat others the same way you wish to be treated. Be true to yourself. Be true to the people that you're interacting with. Be honest. I essentially, every time I meet someone, after getting to know them for a little while, I am upfront. I say, hey, here's my situation. I'm disabled. I have one arm. If you don't believe me, here's proof. I linked on my website. I linked on my Facebook. You know, I link them things so that they understand that, okay, this guy's telling the truth. This is really what's happening. Because I know sometimes people can say whatever they want, and because it's the internet, they can really hide the truth.
Right.
So my advice to anybody living with limitations and things who want to be accepted, even if you're a little scared to do so, be upfront. Show them proof. If you're, okay with doing that after a while, getting to know them, that will essentially open the road to being treated effectively in a positive light, in a positive way. It may take a little work, but for the ones that stick around, it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, like you said, that's good advice for everybody, really, especially online.
Oh yeah.
There's and
it can be applied to anybody.
Yeah, and I know we give a lot of shit and we joke and we say horrible things, but that's because we're here first and foremost to entertain people, and then secondly to inform and do that, which is why we do it that way. That's how our show has always been set up. Unfortunately, we've had you on for 2 hours, so the entertainment part has very, very dropped this episode, and I'm sorry for everybody who had to listen.
I'm so sorry, people.
No.
Oh my.
No, you've been fantastic. I know.
Thank you very much.
We've had a few. I know you're. I don't know why it is, but your poor mic has been struggling for some reason with Metallo voice, but it's not
Skynet.
been. Yeah,
He's Skynet, bro.
It's not been so bad, but
I'll take a look into it once I sign off.
Yeah,
it's a Cylon show
that'll help. That'll help the show. Thanks a lot for that. No, and it was.
You're welcome.
When we talked, it didn't do that a single time. So it's probably just some stupid thing on the internet tonight or Discord, or if there's something loose,
maybe
whatever.
Well, we'll blame it on Ashen.
The fact that I always tell little kids that I'm a robot. Now this can be proof.
I was gonna say you're definitely living.
I've been recording the whole time.
Definitely living up to that one. So anybody have any last minute questions? Anything they want to get out beforehand? Before I help start wrapping everything up.
Nope, you said
all right,
everything
silence is
here.
fantastic.
Said it all, sir.
That's exactly what I
thinking.
As responses go, is a great response.
I really like hearing from someone else that has challenges. It's nice to hear about it, and I think it gives people who struggle in silence. I don't tell people, for the most part, about what I went
Except for
through.
now that you're on a show and you've told everybody.
Right, now I'm on a show.
That, she never told me.
It's out of the bag now.
But I didn't really, other than like my officers that had to deal with the fact that I would have seizures and have to go to sleep.
AFK suddenly, yeah.
Yeah, I just have to, there she goes, they're like,
Jez will be back shortly. She's off beating her kids, which is what we always told them, by the way. We just never.
I know.
Please stand by. Current child beating is underway.
And like
no
my
wire
son,
hangers.
and my son who has a seizure disorder, so I would also have to get up and take care of him. So, hearing and having and putting a face and a voice to other people who have those challenges is always really heartening, and it's nice to know that I'm not the only person that has to remap their whole keyboard. So, yay!
Yeah, and I will say it's been great.
It's tedious, but it's worth it.
Right.
Yes, it is.
And it has been great having you on. And I know somebody. I'm not gonna give names because they didn't say to, but I know someone else had said that they were really glad to see that the episode was coming about. They have a disability as well. So, and if there is anybody else and you've got certain situations and things like that, that's why we're here. We're not just here for our own self-aggrandizement because we're so great. We just happen to be the first assholes that were dumb enough to pick up a couple microphones and thought, maybe someone will listen.
It's true.
There's nothing different or special about what we're doing here other than the fact that we just stepped in front of a microphone, but we open up the show to people that also, we want to be a platform where you can come in and talk for 2 hours like Smiley did. Or if you don't maybe have something like that, you can just come on, call the show, or as Gangsy did last week, just, like, hey, I'm going to call in. So, we knew what she kind of wanted to talk about, which is also just is perfectly cool. And it was, that's what we want to be here for, is to get, we're role players, we
informational entertainment,
right? And we get a bad rap in a lot of ways, and I know we talk about a lot of negative stuff, but that's because it has all you good, bad, it all has to be covered. If you don't know, don't cover every angle, you're being dishonest and there's no point to that. Nothing good can come of only showing the shiny side of something. You got to show the ugly. You got to show the good.
That's true.
So
And
with that,
I think your message of the golden rule at the very end is pretty much covers a broad swath. And I think if more folks followed that, we'd have a lot less issues rolling around.
A lot less drama.
A lot less drama.
Drama-lamas. Not so many
Don't need them drama llamas.
So, all right. Well, I'm going to start wrapping things up. Smiling Sorcerer, dude, I'm really glad that you reached out to us. It was a lot of fun. You're a fun guy, and I love your attitude towards
I had a lot of fun, man.
everything, so you keep doing
Totally do this again. We should do part 2.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll be in touch.
We should get other people to do
you have a few other projects that you had mentioned off air that I'm not going to go into because you didn't say to.
Sure.
That we
I mean, you can if you want.
You're here. He had well, you do it. It was what voice roleplay thingy.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Because I did so well voice roleplay thingy. There you go, everybody.
Yeah. Because I have one hand, it's difficult to type. Obviously, we covered that. So what I've been trying to do in recent years is find people who are comfortable with vocally speaking out their roleplay, either in a impression voice or not. This way, for me, it will allow me to reply back in quicker fashion, and for them, it allows a little bit of entertainment, much like how we're creating here. They get to listen to funny voices that I can do, or they get to talk and chat both out of character and in character, learn about the person and the character itself that somebody's playing.
Yeah.
So
and I know that's something we had talked about trying to do. I know
Jazz mentioned it before.
Yeah, and I'd be willing to jump on and give it a shot with you as well. Is there some place, because I know you're looking for people, because it's definitely not something for everyone. Even I've never done it. I mean,
no. I've offered it privately, and a lot of people find it very, discomforting, very, very.
Yeah, I think especially a lot of old
LARPing.
As Jazz has said with her kids, they do it, but I think that's like a younger generation of role players and things like that are growing up with the internet, and they're not as, I guess, self-conscious as we are on that stuff.
I couldn't do it because I have trouble just talking in like the Discord channels for the guilds. I'll go in there and I won't say anything. I'm like a creeper. Yeah, I'm super shy.
Creepin' Sib.
I mean, like the show, for some reason, I don't have a problem talking. I mean, I do get stuttery at times, but I know I would try it, but I probably wouldn't be good at it.
Is there somewhere, if there's anybody out there that would be interested in there, that listens either to the show live or on the podcast after, is there somewhere they could reach out to you, or?
Oh yeah, I mean they could use my Discord. This is my #6.
Oh, hold on. You were cutting out there. It's the Smiling Sorcerer, obviously, is what he said. If you just type in that too, he's the one with the little pumpkin with the wizard's hat on it.
I get a lot of crap for that being a pumpkin, man.
I don't care. I like Halloween, so I think it works
just
fine.
Fine. It's fine.
But I'm giving people the picture. If you just type in, search the Smiling Sorcerer, you find the one with the pumpkin.
I'm
trying to...
#7736.
Okay, there it is. Yeah, I couldn't find it. #7736. So send it to it there. Is there any emails that you have that they might be able to do it? No.
The Smiling Sorcerer at gmail.com.
There you go.
I just posted the Smiling Sorcerer #7736 in the Discord channel.
No, there you go. So if there's somebody out there that might be, and you don't have an actual like projected date on when that might happen, but it doesn't hurt to get contact early.
Exactly. This is just something that I've tried to offer people as an alternative, just for an extra way of entertainment as well as for me to enjoy roleplay. RPHQ Roleplay Headquarters is looking to actually, within the distant future, possibly make it a live show. Mm-hmm. So, if there are people who are willing to do something like that on voice and be recorded doing so, certainly get in touch with me and maybe we can set up a cast. It'd be kind of like the Geek and Sundry's Critical Role series, but without the actual D&D rules.
Right. So just more based on the role play, less on the mechanics of a D&D game. Awesome.
Exactly.
All right.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here, Smiling Sorcerer. I always want to
Welcome.
call you Smiley for some
Smiley
reason.
is fine.
Yeah.
The reason why I love that is because anytime somebody sends me a little emote of a smiley face, they're talking about me.
That's right. They're talking about
Clever.
But no, I do appreciate you being on. It's been awesome having you. You got a great sense
Oh, you're
of humor.
welcome.
You're a great guy.
I enjoyed talking to you guys.
As I said, I know I'm sure we'll be in contact here after, because there's no reason not to keep talking to you. You're not like creepy and weird.
Oh, thank you.
You're not weird enough. Sorry, you didn't meet the quota of never talk to again.
Nobody wants to play with me.
That's the problem. We might. We just might.
Yeah, be afraid.
Okay, but be gentle because I'd like you guys to buy me dinner first.
Because you might shake apart. Is that what you're
Screw
saying?
that.
Oh no, I just might be hungry.
Oh well, yeah.
There you go.
Always with the free food. All right.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so
Well, thanks for coming.
yes,
Yes.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun.
yes.
I enjoyed it.
Appreciate it. And I also want to give a quick shout out to Kaloko and Zekel Tavari for following us on Twitch. We're getting closer to that 50 follows to the affiliate status on Twitch. Sorry, I'm going to choke to death right now. Excuse me. So that we can get to affiliate status and do a few other things on Twitch that we're currently not able to do. So if you're listening to us live, please hit the little heart button. Give us a like. If you're listening on the podcast, twitch.tv/RPMMORadio. Give us a like. Maybe you might be able to catch us live one night if you're not able to normally. We definitely would appreciate that. Everything. And thank you, Da Truth Bob, for having just followed us while I was in the middle of that sentence. That is awesome. Appreciate it.
Well done, Truth Bob.
You can always, of course, donate to our Patreon at patreon.com/RPMMORadio. We have various amounts there, and everything donated there will go to the show. And unfortunately, not the hookers and blow, as I had previously stated, which is unfortunate. One last thing, too. ESO Spotlight's final episode with Sib came out this last Monday, so visit it at, go to YouTube, search RPHQ. I think youtube.com/RPHQ might work. If not, just type in RPHQ, and you'll be able to listen to Mikey interview Sib, which will be the final of the three of us.
Can I just say, he referred to me as a panda.
He did refer to you as a panda.
I know.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
I get to be a panda.
But, all right. So, you can contact us at rpmmoradio@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, for all the latest news. Of course, rpmmoradio.com/Discord if you want to join our Discord channel. And, of course, tune in next time when we'll go over halflings and why they don't qualify for disability, government discrimination, or just dues for their consumption habits. Next time on
Why they always
RPMMO Radio.
need new shoes.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
See ya.
The thoughts and opinions on RPMMO Radio are just that and should not be taken as the gospel truth. Music, as always, is provided by Husky by the Geek. Visit him at youtube.com/huskybythegeek to hear all his great rock covers and original music.